When we lived at when we lived at, not Schubert's, at Kaufman's, of course, Mary and I used to have Hester Street to Chew Street to get the bus to go to school. We were both at Little Flower. And there was a girl, Betty Gavin. She was my first friend out of the home, and I guess Mary's too. Then when we moved to Grange Street, that was right around the corner from where Betty lived, and she went with a group of girls. And we all became, no, wait a minute, no. No, that isn't true. Betty Gavin, did she hang around with us when we lived on Grange Street? I have to ask Mary. Because on Grange Street we went with the Shieldses, Evelyn. Oh God, who else? There was a whole gang of us. We used to sit on somebody's steps every night and just talk or walk around. And there was a hoagie shop down on Church Lane past the home that we used to go to, like if we had any money and get a hoagie. I think that was the first time I ever had a hoagie, was when we lived at Quartz's. I'm trying to think of when we became real friendly with Betty Gavin. But when we moved to Schubert's, I know Betty Gavin was a friend, and she introduced me to Margie and Rita Charlans and Franny McDermott, Ruthie Belcher, the Delaney girls. And there was another one, I forget her name. But Mary was a very good student, so Mary would go out during the week. She would stay home from homework, and I would go out with the girls every night and not do my homework. I was not a very good student. But I had a lot more fun than Mary. And Mary was very afraid to be by herself. Now, Kitty's husband was in the service, 2 boys. And, like, if Kitty was going to go out at a night, say with her sisters or her girlfriends or whoever, and Mary would babysit, but as soon as I came in the house, or even if Mary and I were out and came in, I'd have to go down the basement, look in all the closets, look under the beds and all, and check everything out to make sure there was nobody in the house, because Mary was afraid.
Is that Kitty Schubert?
That was Jack Dennis's sister. Yeah. Then Jack came home. No. Then my father said to Kitty, no, Kitty said to my father that she didn't mind me, but she didn't want me to live there because I was always out. And she would worry about me, and it was too, I can understand it now. At the time, of course, I couldn't. So I went to live with one of the girls we used to go with, Sandy Starrett. I lived in Sandy's house. Then my father he lived at Bernie's. Then Mary wanted to leave Schubert's. And he got a room for Mary and I in Bernie's, where he was living. Mary and Mrs. Bernie and I slept in the same room. And Mary and Mrs. Bernie slept in the same bed, and I slept in the cot at the end of the bed. And Mrs. Bernie used to snore real loud, and I used to hit Mary to make her hit Mrs. Bernie so she'd stop snoring. That's when we all decided to get an apartment.
How old were you when you left the home?
15.
So say you were 15.
I was 15 years old when we left the Gonska. Mary was 16. Kay and Nellie were already out of the Gonska because Nellie had graduated at Little Flower. Kay took the accelerated course, and that was, instead of going the whole year, she made it up by going June, July, and August. So she graduated in August, the same year Nellie graduated, though she was a year younger because she took the accelerated course. The reason they offered the accelerated course at that time is because the war had started. And they wanted to get people out in the workforce because the men were all being drafted. So anyway, Kay did that. So Kay and Nellie were already out of the home. Kay went to live with a bunch of people. I guess she told you who she lives with. I forget half of them. Nellie went to live with my aunt in West Philadelphia, my mother's sister, Aunt Nellie. She went like that June when she graduated high school. They really didn't want you in the home a lot after you graduated, you know. They want you to graduate and leave.
Where would girls go who didn't have any
You know,
place to go?
Kathy, I don't know. I don't know, because Miriam Welsh, of course, Miriam left before she graduated Little Flower anyway. Her mother took her. I guess as soon as she was old enough and responsible enough to stay home by herself after school and when her mother was working, because she left the Gonska. I don't even know if she graduated. Yeah, she did graduate 8th grade at the Gonska. She went to first year high from the Gonska, but I know she wasn't there when she graduated. Mary Nollick had a sister who lived in Nicetown. Mary Nollick, there was Mary, Jenny, Celie, and Anne, I think the oldest one's name is. And when their parents died, the oldest one kept the house because she could go to work, and the other kids came to the home. But Mary went to live with her sister, too. I think Mary left before she graduated high school, too. But I think she graduated high school. I don't remember, but I think she did, but just not from the home.
But some people didn't have any family, right?
Exactly. Some people didn't, and I don't know what happened to them, Kathy. I really and truly don't know what happened to them. I guess they just went and got rooms in people's houses that they didn't know, I guess. A lot of them had brothers and sisters that they went to. I'm trying to think how many kids that were in there that were, like, didn't have either parent. The Nilaks didn't have anybody except their sister. The McCormicks had their father, but the father died when we were in the home. We were maybe, Sweetie, as I say, might have been 10 or 11 when the father died. Well, some nights we would go and we would sit in other girls' houses. Like mostly we went to Betty, the Delaney's. What was the other one's name? Betty and I can't think. But we'd sit up in their room and they had a radio and listen to the radio and just chat like girls do. And the L bus would take me from Worcester Street up to where they lived. They lived in Melrose Park at the time. And then other nights we would go to the dances, like we would go to the Palladium, or we would go to the Rec out in on Rising Sun Avenue, and that's where we met Franny and Mill and Kitty Carr and all those guys. We met them at this Rec, it was called. It was a big recreation center. And they had dances there, and if it was snowing in the winter, we'd all get on the trolley car with our sleds and go up behind the Rec and go sledding. But that's the kind of things we did. And on the weekends, that's what we did. We went to the dances. We'd go to Holy Child on Friday night. When we were younger, we'd go to the Y on Saturday night. The Y was right below Germantown and Shelton. And on Sunday night, we'd go to either Holy Cross or to the Immaculate. But that's what, yeah. That's when we were like 16 and 17, older. Not. And as far as clothes go, Mary and I didn't have any clothes at all. We had our school uniform, which we wore. More than not, we wore that. I'm trying to think of what other clothes we had. We really didn't have a lot of clothes at all.
You would wear your school uniform out?
Well, we wear it to church on Sunday and all, yeah.
Say we would wear our school uniform.
We would wear our school uniforms. Maybe I'm mistaken, Kathy. I'd have to think of Mary. I'd have to ask Mary. But I know we did wear our uniforms a lot. And as far, like Nellie and Kay were both working, and I would go out to West Philly like on a Saturday afternoon and borrow clothes from Nellie and take them home, like 2 or 3 outfits. And Nellie always had great clothes. She really did. She always bought really great clothes.
Would she let you borrow her clothes?
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. And I would borrow some from Kay too, but Kay, let me see. Nellie and I were more the same size, though Kay was thin too, but Kay was shapely. Nellie and I weren't shapely. And Nellie had a lot of clothes. So I would borrow 2 or 3 outfits from Nellie on a Saturday, and then she would come up and take them, bring me some other outfits. I would take Mary's clothes too, and I would take them in because they didn't fit me. And I would take them in to wear them. And then I'd never take them out again. And we used to fight about that. That wasn't very nice, but that's what I did. I remember one weekend going down the shore. Betty Gavin's family had a place in Wildwood. And they invited me down for the weekend. And I took all Mary's clothes with me because I didn't have any, and took them all in. And she had to go look for a job. I had one dress that Daddy had got me for Easter, and it was a black crepe and had pink and black satin stripes here. And Mary had to wear it to look for a job, and her boobies were hanging out because it was like 2 sizes too small for it. And she said everybody was whistling at her. That's terrible, but...
Was she mad at you?
Oh, God, yes. But Mary being mad at you was like a big joke. Because she wouldn't hit you or yell at you or anything. She'd just say she was mad at you, and who cared, you know? 5 minutes later, she wasn't mad at you. Kay was the toughest one to fight with. Kay and I used to. Though we all fought. The 4 of us used to fight. But Kay, you didn't mind fighting with Nellie and Mary because they didn't hurt you. But Kay did. But we used to dig our nails into each other. We all have, like, scars from digging our nails into each other and pulling hair and all that kind of stuff. Mostly about clothes or not doing your job, like when we lived in the apartment.
Tell me about the apartment.
Well, the first apartment we had was at Green and Calder. Wayne and Calder. It was on the 3rd floor in this family's home. It was really a cute apartment. It was a living room, a bedroom, a kitchen, and a bath. Mary and Nellie slept in the bedroom. No. Nellie and I slept in the bedroom. Kay and Mary slept in the living room. I think it was a pull-out couch. I'm almost sure it was. Because they were going steady with Mill and Franny. And they would be up later than we were. Were they going? I think they were going with them then. But anyway, this woman that owned the house had 2 boys, and she came up and asked us if we would consider going out with one of her sons. And the 4 of us bust out laughing. So she didn't like us anymore. We weren't there too long, maybe at the most 6 months. Now we had to get furnished apartments, of course, because we didn't have any furniture. Then I don't know who found the one on Calder Street. I think Mary did. And that had 2 bedrooms, a living room and a kitchen. It was a really nice big apartment. And we lived there for a long time. Nellie and I shared a bedroom, and Kay and Mary shared a bedroom. And Kay would get up in the morning and wake everybody up. She'd make a pot of oatmeal and wake everybody up. Come and get your CC. And Nellie and Kay used to fight every morning because Nellie didn't want to get up. And Kay would be saying, come and get your CC. Kay was a big tease. And Mary just went along with the program. Mary was always very easy to get along with. Kay, I think Kay and Mary would go food shopping. And Nellie and I didn't do a heck of a lot of much.
Hold on 1 second. Then stop. Okay.
The red light's rolling.
Yeah, so tell me.
When we lived on C Street. No, when we lived on Abbotsford Road. The toilet was stopped up one time. And Kay was trying to clear it out, and she had a strainer. She had a strainer in the toilet. And somebody else was there. I think it was Aggie McKeown. It was the four of us, and I think Aggie was there. And Kay was chasing us all around the apartment with the strainer that she had put in the toilet. And we were all screaming and laughing and carrying on like crazy. And she made us all sit on the couch, and we're all sitting on the couch like this. And my uncle knocked on the door. And Kay standing there with the strainer. You had to be there, but it was really funny.
Was she making you do things?
No, just sitting still, and if you couldn't move or talk, or she'd touch you with the strainer. We had a lot of funny times. We really did. We had a lot of fights, but we had a lot of funny times too. I'm trying to think who would cook. I guess we all took turns at cooking. Not that we cooked like big deals cook. We would cook like Welsh rarebit. You know, you could buy it in a can and make toast points. I think I forget what we ate. Beans and hot dogs, I'm sure. I don't remember. But it was a very nice apartment.
Who paid the rent?
Well, Nellie Kay and Mary worked, and they would chip in and pay the rent. I should have been working, but I wasn't working, so I didn't help. The few jobs I had, then I did it. But I would get jobs, and then I would quit them because they were either wouldn't give me the days off I wanted or whatever, so I'd quit. Never thought much of it.
What would you do during the day?
Sleep. Sleep.
So, say, tell me
I
about-
would, stay asleep most of the day. Then I'd get up before my sisters were coming home and get dressed and pretend I was out looking for a job, but I really wasn't. I really wasn't. That was not nice, but that's what I did. I did have a few jobs. I worked in Kresge's in town with Margie. And Margie used to stay at our apartment a lot too. And I worked in the front, and we used to make this, you see them now, like swans or whatever, things out of glass like that, like blown glass or something. That's what I used to do. And Margie, I think, worked behind the candy counter. And one day this man came in, and he said he wanted to paint my picture. And I said I'd have to ask my sister. So I told Nellie that night. She said, oh, no, you can't have somebody paint your picture. She said I'd have to meet him. And Nellie met this gentleman. In fact, she went out with him once or twice. And she didn't want me to sit for this man and have him draw my picture. I could have been immortalized.
She didn't want you to have your picture painted, but she went out and dated him.
Well, she wanted to see what kind of a man he was, and then I guess she didn't think he was a good enough man, because I never did have my picture painted.
You used to blow glass?
Yeah, it was just like kind of a machine. It was only in a 5 and 10. It wasn't like you see those professional guys do. But yeah, and make like all those little things, knickknacks you see, like swans with the little girl ass twirled around them and all. Yeah, yeah, I did that. I don't know why we quit that. Margie quit, I quit, no matter what reason. Margie and I got jobs together and we quit together.
Did you stay out late?
Yeah, like till the dances were over. I would say I was never out later than 12 o'clock.
So how could you sleep all day if you were getting home around 12 o'clock?
Well, I don't remember, Kathy. I guess I was young and needed a lot of sleep. I don't remember.
Well, Aunt Nellie said she used to get irritated that Margie would sleep over because you didn't have enough food for you guys.
Yeah, and I'm sure they did. And plus, I wasn't working, contributing, and Margie was my friend. And she would stay there. But you don't think like that when you're a kid. You really don't think like that. Then we had another girl live with us. What was her name? Oh my God, she was there for a while. Like maybe a month, maybe 6 weeks. One of the kids should remember her name. She's the one that used to steal clothes out of department stores and all. What was her name? But Nellie was the one that said she could stay at the house. But the day she left, she took the rent money. Kay used to handle the money. She took the rent money, and I think she took a couple of the kids, like a couple of our Easter suits. You'll have to ask my sisters to confirm that, but I'm almost sure that's what happened. Patsy. Oh my God, I can't think of her name, and I thought I'd never forget it. I can't remember. But yeah, and I don't blame Aunt Nellie for being, because we didn't really have a lot of money. As I say, the three of them paid for the rent and the food.
So what would you use for money when you would go out then to the movies or things like that?
I guess my sisters would give it to me. I guess. Because Margie never had any money either. And when, like, the two of us didn't have money, then we had to stay home. But it was 35 cents to get into the dance. And it was 15 cents round trip to get to the dance on the trolley car. Like, if you paid the conductor 15 cents. You got a transfer, and then you got a token. And the token was to come back. And you could get a transfer. All of this was for 15 cents, and the dance was 35 cents. So it wasn't like, well, then I'm sure it was a lot more than 35 cents today. But it wasn't like dollars or anything.
So what else would Aunt Kay tease you guys about?
Oh, I'm trying to think about anything and everything she could think of. Anything.
What about Ernie?
Like she would say, yeah. I used to date this fella, Ernie Cuff. And Ernie, at the time it was stylish. The boys wore pompadours. And one night he was late, and she said he probably got his hair caught in the door. His hair caught in the door. That's why he's late. And she said, one night I was listening, Pat, and you were saying, I love you, Ernie, only you. And then she told me years later, she said, Pat, I was only kidding. Like I didn't know that. Then we went to the movies. We used to walk out to Germantown and Chilton, like right before Christmas. I don't know where. My Aunt Kitty, when she would come, she came a few times a year. She'd give us all 50 cents or $1. And like when it got to be around Christmas time, then the four of us would save our money to get Christmas presents. Because we always bought Daddy something. I don't remember if we bought each other any. I don't know who else we bought other than Dad. Oh, we used to buy Aunt Kitty something. But we would go out the avenue like on December 8th because the schools were closed because it was a feast day. It was the Feast of Immaculate Conception. And we would go out to Germantown Avenue. We'd all put our money in together and say, get Daddy maybe a tie for $1 and Aunt Kitty a bottle of some cheap perfume. Then we'd go to the movies and spend the rest on candy. Then we'd be coming home from the movies and Kay would say, like Kay for years would say, and Patsy used to say, I'm tired. And I didn't at all. She had everybody convinced that I did. Then when I was like going in to be a teen, we were still in the home. And she said, I said to the guy at the Walton, I won a little ticket. Like a child's ticket. I won a little ticket, not a big ticket. I didn't want to pay an adult. And I never said that. She used to tease me about that for years till I would cry. She's crazy, Kay.
Did you two fight?
Yeah, oh God, yes. Oh my God, yeah. Lots. Not so much in the home. I don't remember fighting with my sisters in the home, just because we really had our own little groups of kids in the home. But we fought like crazy when we got out of the home, sure. We fought about clothes. We fought about almost everything. Nellie used to buy stockings. Nylon stockings were the thing then. And they were very expensive. And she used to buy them and hide them. And one night I was going out with your father. And I looked for the longest time for those stockings. I couldn't, because I had asked her before she went out. I said, Nellie, can I borrow a pair of your stockings? And she said yes, but I couldn't find them. She forgot to tell me where they were. Because other nights I just take them because I keep looking, but she keep finding different hiding spaces or hiding places. But we'd fight about things like that, about getting up in the morning, about scrubbing who was going to clean the bathroom one week and whose turn was it to clean the kitchen, whose turn was it to clean the bedrooms. And
What happened the night you couldn't find the stockings?
then it was cold in the wintertime too. I had to go out with no stockings on because I couldn't find them. And I was furious at Ellie. And they were her stockings. Oh, God bless us.
Well, when you were a kid at home, did you, like if you had any trouble or problems, would you go to your sisters and tell them what was going on? Or?
Now, Kathy, we were not tattletales per se. We didn't go to each other and tell them what no, we didn't do that. I don't remember ever telling anybody. I mean, most of the things were that you could see, like when the nun hit Kay and that kind of stuff. You saw it. So, of course, then you would say something or stick up for your sisters. But I don't remember either any of us going to each other and saying, like, Sister Mia's picking on me or Sister Carmelite's picking. No, I don't remember. We could have, Kathy. I just don't remember doing that, though. I think what happened, you kind of kept everything more to yourself than said anything to anybody, if I can remember correctly.
Or like if you had trouble with schoolwork, would you ask any of your sisters to help?
Help me now. No way. No. Mary and Kay and Nellie always did very well in school, as I told you before. But I wasn't really that much interested in school, so it didn't faze me if I wasn't doing real good. Until I got in high school, and then I used to get upset. But I'd just get mad at the nuns, the teachers, not at me. Because they didn't give me a good passing grade or something. Like it was never my fault. It was always somebody else's fault.
apartment?
Well, Kay got married. I got married. Mary got married. So then Nellie went to live with a bunch of girls on Green Street. Then we, of course, there was no way one person could afford that apartment because it was expensive, because it was a furnished two-bedroom apartment. When Kay moved out, we three stayed there. And then we just couldn't stay there. You know, when I got married and then Mary got married, Nellie had to get out.
And you all got married in the same year?
Kay got married in 48. Mary and I got married in 49. Mm-hmm.
And your father?
Daddy got married in 49. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Daddy did get married in 49. I forgot that. Yeah.
Was that harder for Aunt Nellie to have everybody go off and get married?
No, I think, I mean, you know, Kathy, we never talked about feelings. You just did. You know what I mean? I can't explain it to you. I mean, that's the way it was. And you didn't. And Nellie was, I don't think, upset. She was, I think, very happy to go live with her friends. She had a real cute apartment. It was a big apartment. She lived with Alice Bonner, I think her name was, and Mary, I forget her last name. And it was the three of them there for a while, and then another girl moved in, and then Ruthie Belcher moved in, my girlfriend. And I don't know why Ruthie moved in, Nellie and them. I don't know why. But they all, of course, chipped in and paid for the rent and the food. They all worked. Nellie worked in town at the time. Mary got an apartment in, I guess it's called Longcrest. She had a very cute apartment. Kay went to live with the Leonards. She stayed there for 7 years. Daddy and I had a room on Erie Avenue. Then we got an apartment on DeVas Street, a third-floor apartment, and that's where Richie was born, when we lived on DeVas Street. Then we rented a house. Well, that's, you don't want to hear that stuff, do you?
I just wanted to hear where you guys went after you left.
Yeah. Well, Daddy and I went into a room. Mary and Mel got an apartment, and Kay went to live with the Leonards. Mm-hmm.
Did Aunt Nellie ever come out and stay with you guys? Or?
Now, let me see. When I had Richie, no. When I had Richie, I went and stayed at Mary Reedy's for a week. And Daddy stayed home. When I had Jimmy, well, in the year's time, Daddy and I lived on Duval Street. Then, as I say, it was the third floor. We had Richie. And we weren't allowed to keep the coach down on the porch. And we had to take the coach in every night. And it was one of those big gray coaches then. We didn't have a bathroom. We did have a toilet and a sink, but we had to go down to the second floor to take a bath or a shower or anything. So we rented this house on, was it Price Street? I think it was Price Street, right next to St. Vincent's School, behind Chilton Avenue. We rented this house from this Mrs. McLaughlin, who was an out. She worked as an out. She lived where she worked, except on Thursdays. That was the only day she was home. It was a 2-bedroom house. We had the 1 bedroom with Richie in the crib, and she had the other room. And we had the living room, dining room, and kitchen. But she was home more than she was at work, and she was such a troublemaker. So we moved out of there and we got an apartment on Broad Street, a very nice apartment. And we stayed there, and Uncle Ed bought the house on Chelton Avenue. This was all within a year's time now, we're moving. And said we could live on the first floor there. And that's where we lived till after Patty was born. Then we bought the house on Woodstock Street. So Nellie did commit. We lived on Chelton Avenue when Jimmy, Gary, and Patty were born. And Aunt Nellie came over and stayed with me after I had each one of the kids and helped me with the kids. Mm.
Because she said she missed being around you guys after everybody moved out of the apartment.
Yeah, I'm sure she did. But after everybody moved down, she went to live with the girls in Germantown. God, I was there as much as I was home. I was always at Nellie's place because I could walk there with Richie. No matter where we lived, I could walk to Nellie's place. And I think she used to think I was Patsy, get the hell out of here.
Can you think of any other funny times at the apartment?
Kathy, there had to be a million of them, but none of them will come to mind right now. Mary will. Kay should. I can't think of anything.
Did you ever have any bad times or something happen where you guys all had to figure out what to do or accidents or anything?
Not that I can remember now. I don't think so. Did Nellie ever say anything? Was there any? And now I can't remember, Kathy. There may have been, honey, but they don't come to my mind right now.
So let's go back to the home. Did you have a younger girl that you had to take care of when you got older?
Yes, I did. When I got older, I took care of a girl, and I can't think of her name to save my soul. But what I did was like iron her clothes, and more on Sundays than during the week, make sure she was dressed up nice when her father came, and her father would give me $1 or whatever he gave me, $1 or 50 cents, whatever he gave me. I was thrilled to death to get. I would take her clothes from the laundry and put them in her locker and iron her clothes. That was about as much of a charge. It was mostly taking care of their clothing. I don't remember ever really having to do anything else for them.
Not in that you didn't have to help them take a bath.
Maybe we did, Kathy. I forget. Maybe we did. I don't remember.
Could you say, I don't remember if we had to help our charges take a bath?
I don't remember whether we had to help give our charges a bath or not. We probably did, though, because they couldn't take a bath by themselves when they were that age. So we probably did. But I don't remember it. It won't come to mind. But I don't know if anybody was ever in charge of me unless it was Nellie. Now, when I was a little kid, Nellie said when we first went there, I was scared at night, and I knew I was scared at night. I don't remember when I first went there, but Nellie said I used to climb in bed with her. But I know when I got older, I used to climb in bed with Mary every night, because they would turn out all the lights, and it was real dark, and it was a great big room, and I was scared, so I used to climb over in bed with Mary. But if the nuns caught me, they would yell at me because they said it was immoral for me to stay in bed with my sister. I mean, they were weird. So I tried to get up early enough and get back in my own bed before the nuns woke up, because the nuns woke up before we did. But every once in a while I'd get caught. I just didn't make it to get up in time. And they would really yell at me.
Because two nuns slept in the dorm where you were?
Yes. one on each end of the room in a cell, like they called it. It was all, you know, like a room, but it didn't have any top on it. Like it didn't go up to the ceiling. It was about this much of it from the ceiling was open so that they could hear what was going on in the bedrooms. Yeah, 2 nuns slept in each floor.
What was your favorite chore that you had to do there?
I liked working in the kitchen. That was my favorite job. Yeah. One of the jobs was you had to scrub down the back steps. There was 69 of them, and they were wooden. And during the week you had to like dust them down, but on Saturdays you had to scrub them down. And one of the nuns would come along, and if you didn't do it right, you had to scrub them again. And they were a pain in the neck to scrub because they were that real light wood. And if you didn't get in the corners real good, they would make you do it again. And that was a pain in the neck. And then you had to change your water. You had a scrubbing brush and a jar of Fels Naphtha soap and a bucket of water. Well, you were supposed to change your water after each flight. Well, if the nun wasn't looking, then you try to do as many flights as you could with the 1 bucket of water because you had to get up and run up 2 or 3 flights of steps to a sink and dump out the dirty water and put in, which was a pain in the neck. You hated that job. The chapel was a nice job, but I never got to work in the chapel. And
Why didn't you ever get to?
well, because like the nuns had certain kids that they liked more than they liked the others, you know. And Stir DeSales, she was a very old nun. She wasn't a teacher or anything. I guess she was at one time, but she wasn't when we were there. She took care of the chapel and the parlors and things like that. And I guess she more or less picked who she wanted to work in the chapel. And they were always like the goody two-shoes, the best marks, and the best kids, you know. That's who. I think Mary worked there a few times. I'll have to ask Mary. But I think Mary worked. Nellie, I think, worked in the chapel. I don't think he did. But I did work in the... there was a room that was Sales's. She had a bird out there. And it was real cute wicker furniture. It was really a cute room. I forget what we called it. And Sales took care of that. And there was the nun's bathroom was there because that was the back of the community room. Like if you came out of the community room for the back, not where we used to have to knock to go to the movies. They had 2 doors. And if you came out the back, there was a bathroom there. And then this cute little room. I did work there. Like it took care of the halls, the front hall where the people visiting came in. And then there was a hall to go into the chapel and the community room, into this room of Sales's. I worked there a few times. I worked in the kitchen, not in the kitchen, in the refectory lots of times, which you hated that too because you did dishes 3 times a day. And you had to wash and dry and set the tables again and sweep the kitchen floor. And then on Saturdays you scrubbed it. There was like 10 kids that would get down on their hands and knees and scrub the kitchen floor. I don't remember whoever cleaned the lavatory. We had lavatories, like, and we each had the spigots, like they were long. You see them more in army shows or something. They're long sinks, and they each have their own spigot, and then our toothbrush, and we had tooth powder up on the, and we had numbers. And whatever your number was, that's where your place was in the lavatory. And that's where we got washed and brushed our teeth and all. And then outside of there, going towards the back of the Ganska, there was the big It wasn't a bathroom per se, but it was a bathroom because that's where all the tubs and the showers were in that room. That was, no, I'm missing a floor. Now that was on the lower floor, the kitchen, the refectory and all. They were all on the lower floor. I don't remember whose job it was to clean the lavatories or to clean those bathrooms where the tubs were. I don't remember whether I ever had to do that. But I worked in the kitchen a lot. You didn't get jobs until you were like in fifth grade, like until you were in fifth grade. And we weren't big enough to get jobs. And I guess that's when somebody took care of you. And then when you were in fifth grade, you took care of somebody younger than you.
Tell me about sneaking into the...
Oh. They used to lock the doors into the bedrooms on Saturdays and Sundays because you weren't supposed to go into the bedrooms. They were the dormitories. But everybody had their locker up there, and all their personal things were in the bedrooms. So we used to climb from the outside the dormitories. There was a big sink, and then there was a bathroom on each floor. Well, there was a window beside the sink, a big window. You would get out of that window and climb around on the edge of the building to get into the other window to open the door for the high school kids. I used to do that all the time. Now when I think of it, I think I had to be out of my mind because it was a long drop. I mean a long drop. I mean, you would have been killed because you would go right on this Patsy man. That was it. And you never, I mean, you were scared, but you weren't scared enough that you didn't do it. You just did it. And I guess the high school kids would give you a dime or a nickel or a piece of candy or whatever they gave you.
How many times do you think you did that?
Oh, I would say 30, 40, a lot. I mean, every week it was either me or, I don't know whether Mary Nollick would ever do it. Or Peggy Mansfield. No, not Peggy Mansfield. Peggy, I forget her last name. I think we were the only two that would do it. And then by the time we were in high school, they had changed those bedrooms around and we were sleeping over in the old building. I don't know why. I guess that was when the media kids came in and they needed the dormitories for more kids, you know, when the high school kids slept over in the old house. Then we stopped having retreats and all like that for the nuns. It was just, we lived there then. There was 2 playrooms there, the one for the younger kids and then the other playroom across the hall for the bigger kids because the bigger kids had a radio. I don't think the younger kids did. But there was puzzles there and books, crayons and games. Anything that you played with when you were young, they had. At that time, anyway, you played with when you were young. And skates, as they say, they were personal things. You either had skates or you didn't. And some of the kids had ice skates because they would freeze over the tennis courts in the winter. And if you had ice skates, you could go skating on the tennis courts. There was a couple of kids, and I forget their names. Bernice Hennessy. And she had a sister, something else Hennessy. But they both had the ice skating outfits, the little short outfits that Sonia Honey used to wear in the movies. I think they were the only two in the home with ice skates, too. But we had sleds. We used to go sledding. We had a hill outside of the old building. And it was like high, and then it would go lump, lump, lump. And one kid would be on the bottom of the sled, and by the time you got down at the end of the hill, there could have been 5 kids on top of you, because as they came down the hill, everybody jumped on top of everybody else. It was really neat. We had a lot of fun. We really did have a lot of fun.
Did the priest sled with you sometimes?
Yeah, Father Lynch, Father Ryan. Yeah, they would sled with us. Some of the guys that were in the auxiliary, they would come over and sled with us. It was a good place for sledding, that hill outside of the old building, because the rest of it was kind of flat.
What about sometimes did you take the cream off the top of the...
Well, yeah, if we got to it first, the nuns usually got that. You would take the cream off the top of the milk. They came in these great big tin containers. And the top of it, this much of it was all cream. And if you were lucky enough to get that, oh my God, it was the best thing you ever ate in your whole life. Put it on the cereal, it was to die for. But the nuns usually got it, because Strangela used to take it off and give it to the nuns. But we would get there before Strangela sometimes, and if Peggy Snyder didn't see you, then you could get it. But we did. We'd get it. You could get anything you wanted, really, if you were sneaky enough, quick enough. They used to make us apple taffies around Halloween time. Strangela used to make these great big vats of that. It wasn't caramel, it was the red. Oh, God, it was so good. And one day I was there helping her, and I put my finger in it, never thinking, Kathy, I had blisters. So they were instantly blistered up. Now, how dumb can you be? That thing's cooking for hours, and I'm stirring, and I decided to put my finger in it. But then she would make all these apple taffies, and then she would make taffies with the lifesaver faces in them for, that was really good. At Thanksgiving, we had a bunch of people that would come in and bring us turkey, and I think they cooked it right there in the home, but they would bring all the stuff themselves. Make this great big delicious dinner.
Was that a good day?
Thanksgiving, if I can remember correctly, it was, Kathy. Yeah. I think it was.
Okay, Bubula, that's enough for today.
This is room tone, Patsy Breen's living room.
additional minute ringtone.